In this video, you're going to learn about the 6 types of content that you can use in your email or your social media to turn someone from interested or a subscriber or just following you into a paying customer. If you're new here, my name is Jake Hadbrand. I absolutely love content and storytelling. I've spent the last decade of my life doing it, starting with publishing my own book, selling a couple thousand copies as a 20-year-old young buck, speaking to 15,000 people around 6 countries around the world, giving TEDx talks, speaking at universities, all that fun stuff. And I've helped different companies generate over $10 million in revenue from email alone. Really, I just love content. I love storytelling. I love strategy. So everything I'm going to be teaching in this video today is what I've learned and seen directly over the past 10 years. So let's dive in. I was recently preparing a presentation for a company where I'm teaching them different ways to leverage AI for their content marketing. And it's so funny, like that exact day, I got an email from Alex Hormozi, who you've probably heard of, who teaches something called the 3-7-30 method. And it is almost identical to what I'm going to be teaching you guys today. So let's start with the very first content bucket. And this is probably going to make a lot of sense and you've probably used it in your business. And that is social proof and authority, right? And so what this looks like is different case studies and testimonials, client wins. Now, I think it's really important to differentiate like how to do this. If you're on a sales page, for example, or you're at a page where you're looking to book a call with someone, you're almost guaranteed going to have their different testimonials, and that's wonderful. Now, the focus of this video specifically is more so content that you're going to be putting in your emails, whether that's a newsletter or a like opt-in nurture sequence, or just on your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your TikTok. Because as someone is entering into your community, they almost, like you could think of it as like they have these different unconscious levers. And when I say unconscious, the consumer themselves is likely not conscious of these levers. But when you hit these different buckets, what we're doing is we're checking each of these levers that is building their trust and their, I guess you could say, confidence or conviction that you have the answer to their problem. So as I just said here, in one of the first bucket, and the way to do that is social proof. And we are social creatures. As humans, we trust what other people think. One way to, if you've ever driven down a restaurant and you see a really long line out the door, you're almost unconsciously thinking, damn, that must be a good restaurant if there's that many people who are waiting to get food, whereas the restaurant around the corner is empty with crickets. And you might be wondering, is that actually a place that I want to eat? Maybe not, because there's social proof, right? And so obviously the more testimonials you have, the better, but it also, like, quality over quantity, I would say, because someone's going to look at your testimonials and then they're going to be gauging, okay, this worked for them, but can this work for me? And they really want to build the trust, especially as we're in 2025 here. There's a little bit of like a trust recession with marketers, which makes sense because a lot of people have been burned. So in your emails, especially in the first couple, you want to be leveraging your best testimonials, your biggest client transformations. So like if you're doing weight loss, you'd want to have that client who went from 250 pounds to 180 in 6 months or whatever the crazy transformation is. And another thing that's important when you're using your testimonials or case studies, the best that you can is you want to be showing, not telling. So one of my clients, her name's Aaliyah. She teaches the law of attraction. She has a couple 100,000 followers. She's amazing. And she brought me on to help with her content and writing her emails. And in one of her highest performing open rates, we titled it, What It Really Looks Like to Have Manifestations Unfold. Because, there's all this stuff. For whatever reason, like that subject line just like works super well. And in this video, or in this email, we said something to the effect of like, wherever you are right now, I just want to share like what's possible for you and what it actually looks like to have manifestations unfold. So this is like, and I think her name was Joni. Don't quote me on this, but then we actually just like had a link to Joni and we shared her testimonial story. So you could kind of see we're trying to show, not tell. And really the goal of this, as I said, is social proof, showing our subscriber or person in our community that we are legit, that we have track record, that we have gotten results before, and that to try and use different testimonials because, especially if there's a man watching, they might resonate more with a man. If there's a woman watching, she might resonate more with a woman and so forth. So you want to try and diversify and hit all of these unconscious buckets or unconscious levers in even just the social proof. The second bucket that you want to hit is education and industry insights. And the purpose of this is to demonstrate your expertise and demonstrate your value. So of course, education, I think that's kind of straightforward. You want to be talking about the thing that you specialize in, and you want to essentially be teaching, A, just to provide value, but B, to show your subscriber or person in your community that you know what you're talking about, and then you could actually teach them. So for me, I teach a lot about content, because you're watching this video, and email marketing. So maybe for me, some of these education posts look like, I did a post not too long ago about if you do this one thing in your business, you have an 800% higher ROI with email marketing, right? HubSpot did the study that companies who segmented their email list versus companies who didn't had an 800% higher return on investment with email marketing. So what I'm doing there is I'm not only educating, but I'm showing that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm giving an insight into an industry that maybe not everybody knows. So someone who's following me, they're a business owner or whatever, and they're maybe have email, but they're not utilizing it to its fullest potential. Then they're like, oh my gosh, I need to be segmenting my email. So that's sort of educating them, but also giving an insight into the industry. Another really great thing you can do in education is myth busting. And I have a client, he is a relationship therapist, he's an MFT. And so for example, maybe you're busting a common myth in your content. So for him, a common myth that he busts or that we use in his marketing is a lot of people think you need to make sacrifices in your relationship and compromise, right? We've all heard, what's the key to lasting success? Compromise. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with this, but I'm just showing you a marketing myth busting. But what he says is that's actually not effective, because if you are creating agreements that you actually are feeling resentful about, that will create problems down the line. So he's like, what you need to do instead is create something that he coined, his own terminology, which we'll go into. This is a little tidbit into the fifth bucket is his unique methodology, but it's something he calls mutually satisfying agreements. So he's myth busting, and he's also bringing in his own methodology, which we'll get into a second. But really, in this education and industry insights, you want to demonstrate your expertise, you want to teach, and you want to inform your community. You want to provide genuine value. And I think that needs to be a given here, right? In all of your content, you want to be providing as much value as possible. While you're giving, there's going to be a percentage of them who will want to work with you. But, or I should say, and that is predicated on the fact that you are actually giving them tangibly valuable stuff. The next bucket we're hitting is objection handling. Now, this is interesting that I even made it a bucket, because this is kind of the intention with all of your content, right? If you've ever been on a sales call before, or someone in your company is on a sales call, they'll know that you have to, there gets to the point where you're going to say the price and you're already ready for all the objections. Well, what's the price? This is too much. What if this won't work for me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so in your content, your goal is to almost be setting them up for that sale, if they get on a sales call, but maybe they're just buying directly online without a salesperson. Your copy and content is essentially addressing objections if done effectively. So you can almost think of it like a reverse FAQ section on a website, where each of your content, each post is handling or addressing a different objection. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, if your subscriber or your potential client has these 10 levers, each of these objections or pieces of content is checking one of those levers. And so by the time you've gone through all this content and you've checked all these levers for someone, and then they're ready to buy. So objection handling, it's really important, and kind of thinking through as you're creating content, what are some of the core objections, or what are the core fears of these people that they might have. And so, for example, one of the best ways you can do this, right, is especially if you have a service or a product that helps people make more money in the business space, is demonstrating the ROI of what you do. Because almost always someone's gonna be like, yes, but the price. And so in your content, if you can demonstrate the value of your whatever it is that you're selling, for example, for me, email marketing. Let's say I have a proposal for someone and they're not really leveraging email to its full extent. This is a statistic. This isn't just me. The ROI for email marketing, the average ROI is $36 for every $1 spent. Think about that. 36x. So if someone is coming to me and I'm pitching them and they're saying, okay, but this is really expensive, I could say, okay, but if you gave me $1, would you like 36 back? Again, this is sort of like a little cheesy example, but the point I'm getting here is if I'm effectively using this in my marketing, by the time they even get onto a sales call with me, they've already been pre-instilled with this belief and understanding of the ROI of email marketing. So again, just thinking through the different objections that you can address in your content. The fourth style of content that you can be posting is personal stories and philosophy. It is 2025 and people really care about who they're buying from. It's not like it was back in the old days. Now, granted, there are a couple products or services where maybe you don't need to have as much of this personal story philosophy, but for the most part, people want to feel connected. They want to trust who they are buying from. And that is the goal with this, is to humanize yourself, your product or service, to build trust and intimacy. Now, how you do that is you can convey your personal values. This is all about storytelling, right? So like for me, in the past, I've talked about, and this is, and you have to decide the degree in which you want to share or the types of things you want to share. I've been very open in my marketing with the fact that I've done plant medicine and psychedelics, how it's really helped me physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually with my health. And so obviously that might polarize some people. It might push someone away, but at the same time, I've had a lot of people work with me who have also had positive experiences from those different psychedelic medicines, and also just people who are maybe in that overarching spiritual domain. I love working with those people. So by me sharing my stories and sharing some of my values around that, I am attracting those people. To wrap it up, who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? And when you can convey that through your content, you are going to naturally attract the people who also share those values. The fifth style of content you want to be posting is positioning. And the goal here with positioning is to pre-frame and instill beliefs in your prospect's mind that you and your product or service is the answer that they've been looking for. Again, I sort of already touched on this a little bit briefly, but we're going to go deeper into this part right here about the objection handling and how when you are doing your content right, you're building the belief in the prospect's mind. You're hitting those levers that are building that trust and conviction that your product or service is exactly what they need. So in positioning, what this looks like is one aspect of this is your unique value proposition. So what's so unique about you? I helped a company. They were the first ever self-cooling, portable, self-cleaning cold tub, right? That's a pretty unique value proposition. They were the first to do it. Now, granted, a lot of people copied them, but being the first, we really leveraged that. We talked about the innovation, and so that was a unique value proposition at the time. Now, in positioning, also you want to differentiate from your competitor, so what makes you different, kind of using that same exact model. It was a company started by two cousins, so it was like a family-owned business. Compared to all the other companies or cold tub companies out there, at the time, I think we were the only company that actually had like a full-on customer support team. So like you're not just talking to an AI bot, and we're using that. Like, look, if you have an issues, we'll get on Zoom and troubleshoot with you, right? This is differentiating from our competitors. They also had a scientific advisory board, which again, cold immersion has like been flying onto the scene in the last couple of years, but leading forward, like differentiating from competitors, and that these guys are the leaders in science. We're at the cutting edge. So you can think about, as I'm crafting this, because they brought me on to do their email, I'm trying to hit each of these different levers, and in our positioning, I'm differentiating, right? Now, another part of this positioning, as I hinted at before, is methodology. Now, maybe you've heard of Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels. And what he did so brilliantly is he built or instilled a belief in everyone's mind that you are just one funnel away. You're one funnel away from that 7-figure business. You're one funnel away. And so that was his unique methodology of sort of positioning and selling the value of ClickFunnels, that you're just one funnel away. Maybe you've heard of the marketer. His name is Ryan Levesque. He had the ask method, which is essentially, spoiler alert, you ask your customers or your community what they want. I think it's so brilliant. But think about these names, like there's different methodologies. I teach the ACE framework. It stands for audience clarity, It stands for content, which we're sort of covering now, and then executing, system, and strategy. For me, those are like the 3 pillars to be profitable with your content and your email marketing and all that fun stuff. So in positioning, you want to be kind of hitting these different levers, and then really, of course, is really speaking to your ideal client. And I can't emphasize this last point enough. And that's why in the framework that I teach, the audience clarity is the foundation, and it's the first letter for a reason. Because unless we understand who we're talking to, we understand their pain points, their fears, their hopes and dreams, where they're at, it's going to be hard to speak to them in a way that's creating resonance. Like the absolute best content, if you can think back, but a lot of this happens unconsciously, is when you're watching or reading something and you just have that like, holy shit moment, like this person or this product gets me. This is exactly what I'm feeling. Any company who's creating content like that is doing it brilliantly, because you're creating resonance within your consumer or the member in your community. Number 6, last but certainly not least, is your call to actions, using the Gary Vaynerchuk analogy. He's got the jab, 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 right hook. And so your call to actions are your right hooks. Now you have hard call to actions and you have soft call to actions. A hard call to action is like a direct ask, book a call, buy this product, especially during a sale, right? That's a hard call to ask. You're like, buy, buy, buy. But there's also ways to weave in soft call to actions. I think a great way to do this, and you could also do this in almost every email, is Pete in your PS. Interested in learning more, book a call with our team. You could always have that in the PS or a way that they can get in touch with you. Now, it's with call to actions, it's being strategic, because as you'll learn, depending on where you are, or maybe you already know this, there's like the average time that someone is on your list or in your community before they buy. Some people are primed and they're ready to buy instantly. Some people take 6 months. Probably a bell curve where there's someone's usually in that 30-day mark, because, pulling from both extremes, so to speak. So you want to make sure in your content you're having call to actions that can effectively speak to each of these different groups, where immediately if they opt in, there's usually a prime opportunity. Again, it depends on your industry and if you're a product or service, but especially like in a product industry, if you have anything in the food and beverage as well, or like clothing, a 10% off opt-in, for example, is a great way to get people to buy immediately when you're giving them sort of like a discount. Now, if you're in the high ticket space, workshops, live trainings, these are great ways to sell and great ways to really build the trust with someone that creates the know, like, and trust to ultimately want to work with you. So being strategic with your call to actions, discovery calls, workshops, audits, etc. in your content. There you have it, the 6 buckets of content that you can be using in your business to turn someone from new to your community or a new subscriber into a happy paying customer or client. By doing this effectively, you are checking off all of these unconscious, maybe conscious, but likely unconscious levers in your subscriber that is making them want to work with you. If you're interested in getting more videos and content and tips on email marketing and content marketing, make sure to like and subscribe on this video below. And if you're interested in working with me personally, there is a link in the description. We can hop on a call. I can look at your content, your audit, your funnel, see what's working, see what's not working, and go from there. Get out there, start posting. Done is better than perfect, and the only way to get better is to start and just be consistent.